Thanks for clicking on the video. Really appreciate that, by the way. So this is the beginner's inventory, part 1. Yep, I got 4 parts coming. 4 parts coming. This is number 1. And so in this video, I'm going to go through paints. If you haven't watched my introduction video, which explains kind of what all the parts are going to be about, feel free to go watch that quickly. That just gives you kind of a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about in all 4 of these videos. These videos are designed and kind of aimed for beginners, just because I find that's probably kind of the best audience to kind of get to first. So, I'm not really going to waste much time talking about stuff. Let's get right into the video. Alright, first paints I'm going to talk about. Definitely probably the most basic types of paints, and that's your black and white. As when you start off, of course, minifigure painting is not the cheapest hobby to get into. The first paints you really want are just your black and white, which is Abaddon black and Corax white. They're your standard white, your standard black. And basically, they're definitely recommended because if you're doing other figures of any type, there's so many, you can use them to then mix light and dark and other colours, instead of having to waste money to get other pots of paints. So really, they're just kind of your 2 basic ones. The next thing is of course your primary colours, which is just your blue, red and your yellow. So your yellow, you have Avaland Sunset. Your blue, you have Macragge blue. And your red, you have Memphiston red. Really, it's if you really just don't know what you're going to be painting, they're kind of the ideal paints, the ideal 5. White, black, red, blue and yellow to kind of get just so you have kind of your basis, your ground covered. So yeah, the really big question is, what are you painting? If you know what you're painting, that's absolutely great. You can really then narrow in on that, know what paints you need to buy, know what equipment you need, if they're pre-assembled or not. I'll go into that in part 2. Part 2 is all about brushes, tools and other stuff, really. So next thing is, I'm going to do an Ultramarines example, because that's kind of the easiest thing that goes into my head. Could be the reason why you're watching this channel, because you enjoy Ultramarines as much as I do. So Ultramarines. There are 2 ways to paint them. You can paint them basic and simple, without edge highlighting, just basically putting blue, putting gold on them, painting the guns, painting anything else on them, and just kind of leaving them pretty standard, which, to be honest, they don't look that bad. Leaving pretty standard, don't know if you can really see that, but that's kind of just not edge highlighted, it's just got the base colours on it. And I mean, it looks pretty decent because I keep in between the lines and I'm pretty good at painting, and that's kind of what that looks like. And then when you edge highlight, basically, probably can't even see it, I'll put some little photos up somewhere, and basically it's just going over every panel with a lighter blue, and really you're just adding extra texture to them, and you can take a photo of them and put them on a box and no one would know the difference. So definitely the first paint is you want Macragge blue. That's the blue that I use. There is an Ultramarines blue, which I believe is the Citadel colour paint, and you put over it. I don't do that. I really just like the plain of Macragge blue. I think it just looks and stands out pretty well. For your gold panels, you use Retributor armor, so that's really just the crest and the parts around the shoulder pads. That's what you use for that. You can really go to hell with all the pouches, definitely for the guns and stuff that go around their belt area. You can really just use any brown. I have a lighter and a darker brown, so I edge highlight the pouches too, just to help make them fit in with the rest of the figure. For the parchment, which are the little purity seals, they're found all over the figures. If you're using Citadel, I suggest using Bane Blade Brown. That does that pretty well. And I mean, I preferably use a P3 formula paint, which is Hammerfall Khaki. I just find that works, and the paints are a little bit more high quality. I feel it really, that hurts. I just feel the Hammerfall Khaki really, it's just a really vibrant but soft colour when it gets painted on. It just looks really nice. For the red parts, especially with sergeants, because their helmets are red. Normal guys, their eyes are red. just Memphis and red. That's kind of really just, that's two of your primary colours kind of sorted. That just does the rest of that, and that's really kind of all it is for the basics of getting Ultramarines done. Oh, and Lead Belcher. That's your silver. Too. All of these paints in Australia are about $5.50. I get mine for $5.50 because I'm special. And that in American dollars is not a clue. You can do the research. So it's pretty cheap, pretty basic. Now for when you're edge highlighting, basically if you're just doing one highlight, which is what I do, you do multiple highlights on them, which I don't really have the time for, is Calgar Blue. Nothing much else to say with that. Not much else on Ultramarines. I can really talk about them all day, but the next thing I want to go through is cans. Pretty simple. Paints. Paint in a can, you can spray on them. Do I recommend using cans? No, not really, especially for basing your figures. Like when they're just plain grey like this. You're supposed to spray them. Don't spray them. I find spraying, you can get pretty out of control. You can't really control the spray. Just kind of it's spraying or it's not spraying. So you can really fill in major details, and I've had that with previous figures, not even Warhammer, but previous figures that I've done. I've really had that problem of just like trying to keep the right distance without your whole hand turning out a different colour. So basically if you look at the Citadel paints, they'll have like the Citadel logo, they'll have base or layer or dry or technical or something else down there, or shade even, and then they've got the name. That's what you want to look out for. If it says base, it's a base paint, and you can use that straight on top of the plastic. So for Ultramarines, for example, Calgar Blue, McCraig Blue is a base paint. It can go straight on top of the plastic. It sticks pretty well. Basically, you don't have to worry about putting a black underneath or anything like that. The blue can just go straight on. Cans are handy. I'm not going to put down the cans. The cans are good. Bigger stuff like this. That's a tank, really. That's just a huge tank, and really, I don't really want to go over with my brush on that, because it's going to take ages. It's going to use up my little pot, and really I might get uneven bits. You can see brush strokes, and especially for a tank being so big, you can't get away with it on a small figure. But you really can't get away with it on a tank. And so spraying it is really handy, even for like these little parts I did paint by hand, and the rear panel. But definitely for spraying on the inside, and when you paint the inside, using a spray can, just of McCraig Blue, comes in a can. Just use that, it goes much easier. Spraying is also really handy for when you're painting camo. You stick blue tack on it. I'll probably do a video on it later. But yeah, the can's are really handy for doing a little method like that. You can probably even Google it. You might find someone else that's done it better. Next thing is bases. If you follow my Instagram, put my Instagram up. That's a good idea. On my Instagram, I post photos of my figures, and I do my bases. I put a texture paint on them, and they are technical paints, and they come in these big bad boys, which are close to $10 Australia dollars, by the way. This is a technical paint, and it's sterling mud. They take a while to dry, but you put it on with a little shovel. Citadel has. Of course, I'm a real suck up for that advertisement, but you can't get like a little two-sided shovel with a skinnier bit and a bigger bit. And basically you just shovel it on and you spread it over the base, and then it dries. And basically it dries really cool. You can make bits lumpier than others, make holes and potholes and stuff. And then after that, I put on another really technical paint called Nurgle's Rot, which is just this greeny stuff that dries really glossy, and it dries in pools, so it looks like rotty, murky water, kind of just on the ground, which I think looks absolutely cool. And just definitely from figures that I was painting beforehand, just sticking rocks from my driveway on the bases, this is really a step up, and it looks pretty top notch. I could take a photo of these and put these in a Warhammer box. You would not be able to tell the difference. technical paints, which is my kind of last little thing, and contrast paints. You find Citadel has a fair bit of these. And really, so then basically your contrast paints, they're inks. So this I use for Ultramarines, which is levered on blue, and you put it in between the panels. Kind of, majority over the legs. And it's kind of about it. And when you edge highlight it, it just helps hide the crevices and bring out the panels, and just the layering on them just looks extra awesome. I don't really know why I have this one. I had this one in the intention of putting on Necrons, and I haven't really painted many Necrons because I'm just absolutely loving painting my Ultramarines, and I've got other board games that I've got figures for that I want to paint. I'm in a bit of an overload right now. So basically Citadel offers lots of different paints. You've got your base paints, which can go on first, they're kind of your bottom layer. And then you have your layer paints, which can go on top. Especially for Ultramarines, your layer paints you really just use for your edge highlights and everything like that. You then have your technical paints, which can vary from glossy stuff to basing materials. Then you have your technical and your contrast paints, of course, which are your inks. And you also have dry paints, which they're like little... I bought one by accident, and it's just spongy, and you use it to dry brush stuff on. I don't really know what the big hit is it for, but it's interesting, could be a thing you might want. I don't know. That's basically a really quick rundown of Citadel paints. Next thing is, don't have to buy Citadel paints. I'm just a sucker for Citadel paints because, well, they're paired with Warhammer, and I could just kind of align the stars just to make stuff look kind of as what it would on a box, just to really not confuse people that it's like a different shade of blue. You can use any other brand. There are heaps of brands, don't really know many other brands because it's kind of the only brand I've really bought, apart from some P3 formula and some war paint stuff. That's kind of about it. So, I mean, if you it's really good to start off with Citadel. You can, a lot of people say you start off with Citadel and move on to other brands as you find that they're better paints. Don't have all the money in the world, this is kind of just where I'm at now. That's really it. Alright, thank you for watching the video. That's the end of part 1. Part 2 is coming, part 3 is coming, part 4 will eventually be there. So really, just thank you for watching. That's a bonus. If you've got to this far in the video, that's pretty good. Don't forget to go follow my Instagram. You'll see photos of Warhammer and what I'm doing outside of being in front of this desk. Probably even see a bit of my work life. That'll be interesting. Leave you on a hook there. Go check out my Instagram, you find out what I do for work. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, that helps me out. Keep the subscribes going up and up, I guess. Like the video to help the YouTube algorithm so I can get to the top of the search bar when people search up beginner stuff for Warhammer and minifigure painting. That'd be great. Feel free to comment down below any other paints that you kind of really think are necessary for painting. I think I'll just painting Ultramarines or just a good paint to start off with. When you first start off with, like having your primary colours and your black and white. Be nice to hear what you guys think about that. Good. I'm also going to say something else. I'm going to make this outro really useful. Some videos are coming. First video that's coming, I'm going to do an edge highlighting video on Ultramarines. I'm going to edge highlight some actual figures and tanks. Very different. Tanks also go along for like bikes and stuff. But I'm going to show you how I do that. And also, hands down, the first favourite game I had before Warhammer was Zombicide Season 2 Prison Outbreak. I'm going to do a full run through this game, go through all the rules. I'm going to give you tips on how to kind of get through the levels. I'm going to then get a little crew together, and we're going to try and get through all of the missions, which I believe there's 10, and they can go for a good couple of hours. So basically I'm going to go through that. I'm going to try and paint the characters for them so they look nice. That's coming. And edge highlighting. You've got a lot to wait for. Plus part 2, 3 and 4 of this series. Whoa. That's amazing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. bye.